Hello and welcome to this day in history for December 15th. December 15th is the 349th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, with 16 days remaining to the end of the year and 10 days till Christmas. Today's word is klutz. Its general meaning is a clumsy or stupid person. If you're awkward and clumsy, you can call yourself a klutz. If a klutz is carrying a tray full of glasses across a dining room, you can be sure they'll end up on the floor. This informal word is perfect for talking about a goofy oaf who trips over his own feet and seems to drop anything he's holding. You might say, "Don't let my brother move your TV, he's such a klutz." Klutz is the Americanized version of the Yiddish klotz, which means block or lump, and also clumsy person or blockhead, bore, clod, or wooden block. The earliest documented use of this word for this meaning is 1968. Before we get started, I want to remind you that links to my research are included in the show notes. If you're wondering where I get this or that piece of information, all the links are included in the show notes. And we're going to start in 1791, when the Bill of Rights was finally ratified. Following ratification by the state of Virginia, the first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution, known collectively as the Bill of Rights, became the law of the land. These amendments were designed to protect the basic rights of U.S. citizens, guaranteeing the freedom of speech, press, assembly, and exercise of religion, the right to a fair and legal procedure, and to bear arms, and that powers not delegated to the federal government would be reserved for the states and the people. 1890. The great Sioux chief and holy man, Sitting Bull, was killed by Indian Agency police at the Standing Rock Reservation in South Dakota. He was 58 or 59. 1933, the 21st Amendment to the United States Constitution officially became effective, repealing the 18th Amendment that had prohibited the sale, manufacture, and transportation of alcohol. 1939, Gone with the Wind received its premiere at Loew's Grand Theater in Atlanta, Georgia, in the U.S. 1944, legendary band leader Glenn Miller disappeared over the English Channel. It was said of Captain Miller that next to A Letter from Home, his organization was the greatest morale builder in the European theater of operations. The Captain Miller in question was the trombonist and bandleader Glenn Miller, the biggest star on the American pop music scene in the years immediately preceding World War II, and a man who set aside his brilliant career right at its peak in 1942 to serve his country as leader of the USAAF dance band. It was in that capacity that Captain Glenn Miller boarded a single-engine aircraft at an airfield outside of London on December 15, 1944, an aircraft that would go missing over the English Channel en route to France for a congratulatory performance for American troops that had recently helped liberate Paris. 1945, General MacArthur ordered the end of Shinto as the Japanese state religion. The Shinto system included the belief that the emperor, in this case Hirohito, was divine. Allied powers believed that serious democratic reforms and a constitutional form of government could not be put into place as long as the Japanese people looked to an emperor as their ultimate authority. Hirohito was forced to renounce his divine status, and his powers were severely limited. He was reduced to little more than a figurehead, and not merely a religion, but even compulsory courses on ethics, the power to influence the Japanese population's traditional religious beliefs and moral duties, were wrenched from state control as part of a larger decentralization of all power. 1961, the architect of the Holocaust was sentenced to die. In Tel Aviv, Israel, Adolf Eichmann, the Nazi SS officer who organized Adolf Hitler's final solution of the Jewish question, was condemned to death by an Israeli war crimes tribunal. 1973, jockey Sandy Hawley won a record 500th race. He was the first jockey to win 500 races in a single year. In a single year! That's amazing. If he won 500 of them, I wonder how many he ran. In 1973, John Paul Getty III, the grandson of American billionaire J. Paul Getty, was found alive near Naples 5 months after his kidnapping by an Italian gang. J. Paul Getty, who became the richest man in the world in 1957, had initially refused to pay his 16-year-old grandson's $17 million ransom, but finally agreed to cooperate after the boy's severed right ear was sent to a newspaper in Rome. He eventually secured his grandson's release by paying just $2.7 million, the maximum amount that he claimed he was able to raise. And I can see that. A person can have a really high net worth, but not really be able to get their hands on that much cash. 1978, U.S. President Jimmy Carter announced that the United States would recognize the People's Republic of China and sever diplomatic relations with Taiwan. In 1988, James Brown began a prison sentence. Yes, legendary singer James Brown, also known as the Godfather of Soul and the hardest working man in show business, became inmate number 155413 at the State Park Correctional Institute in South Carolina. Brown had had several run-ins with the law during the summer of 1988 that landed him on probation, but his reckless spree on September 24th resulted in numerous criminal charges, including assault and battery with intent to kill. 1993, the movie Schindler's List opened and won Steven Spielberg his first Oscar. Schindler's List is the true story of a German businessman who saved the lives of more than 1,000 Polish Jews during the Holocaust, and the movie about it opened in theaters on this date in 1993. 2001, the Leaning Tower of Pisa reopened. A team of experts had spent 11 years and $27 million in an attempt to fortify the tower without eliminating the famous lean. In the 12th century, construction began on the bell tower for the Cathedral of Pisa, a busy trade center on the Arno River in western Italy, some 50 miles from Florence. While construction was still in progress, the tower's foundation began to sink into the soft, marshy ground, causing it to lean to one side. Its builders tried to compensate for the lean by making the top stories slightly taller on one side, but the extra masonry required only made the tower sink further. By the time it was completed in 1360, modern-day engineers say it was a miracle it didn't fall down completely. And I think that's going to do it for us today. As always, links to my research are included in the show notes. Thank you so much for watching. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and feel free to share. And while you're here, be sure and check out my other channel, 8 Susquehanna. There's a link in the description. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Alrighty, back to work. Okie dokie, Smokey. Let's just rearrange that a little bit. Just read it like it's written. Sometimes when you read the words, it's not quite enough if you haven't put enough words in there to begin with. That's not the way I like to tell it anyway. We don't need all those words. Hope I pronounced that right. So happy for editing. So many edits. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? She's not a man. Did I do this whole thing without a microphone? Dadgummit. This is why I don't do live shows.